welcome to the Ended Up in Vegas podcast. I'm Nikki.
I'm Megan.
Today we have a guest talking about short-term rentals. This is something that so many real estate investors want to get into, and this is the man to talk to if you want to know about all things short-term rentals. Jason Griggs, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So talk to us about your niche in real estate.
So I got into real estate by being an agent, and then I quickly started investing here. I'm from New York, and when I moved here, I started realizing the real estate is a lot cheaper here than it was back home. So I just started buying rental properties. And as time went on, I realized that the short-term rentals were long-term rentals on steroids.
Yeah.
The best analogy I could use, and they kick butt. They're really good investments.
Yeah, and you got into the market quite a few years ago when short-term rentals were, still, unregulated, basically. So how has the environment changed now?
Well, there's been like a lot of new rules and laws that have come out,
right?
Especially in this town.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this town is the best place to invest in rental properties, short-term and long-term, because of the tourism and just the people that are moving here.
Yeah.
So what I found is that the city has been putting like a lot more stricter rules in place to regulate them, which in my opinion is a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're going through right now.
Well, and I think that there are some people who would say, that there is not an opportunity in the short-term rental market because it's so saturated, and now because there are so many regulations that govern what you can and can't do, how far apart you need to be from the next rental. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So it's a great point, but those people are wrong.
Okay.
Because the easiest thing to do right now, if you have a nice product, if you have a nice home, you could rent it any way you want. If you want a short-term rental it, you could do 30-day rentals. You don't need a license to do 31-day rentals. So those are extremely popular, and they are great money-making assets.
Okay, and that's what we consider like a midterm rental, right?
Yes. Anything over 30 days.
So how many rental properties do you have in the short-term market?
I have 30 total now. I have 9 short-term rentals.
Okay.
Actually, that's wrong. I have 11 now. So I have 8 here and then 3 in Kansas City.
So someone who wants to end up in Vegas, get started on a short-term rental. I have many investment clients who are, looking for opportunities like that. Where do they start, and what do they need to pay attention to?
So what are the hottest submarkets within our city? Inspirada, Summerlin, Cadence, those areas. So people want to test out our market sometimes. They don't want to just go buy a house. So what they'll do is they'll rent a furnished home for a year or 6 months to test it out. Since it's furnished, you could charge a really high premium on that home because it's brand new, it's nice, and that's the approach I take.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about, for people who don't know, the city of Henderson has their own regulations. Clark County, which makes up most of Las Vegas, has their own regulations. So tell us what some of the stipulations are.
So it's 2 separate ordinances, and the city of Henderson came out first.
Okay.
They said we're going to license 320 homes in all of city of Henderson, which I think was a great idea. And so you have to apply per home. Just because you get one license doesn't mean you can do as many as you want.
Right.
There's a list of rules and regulations. Clark County is a little behind, and they're coming out with a very similar rule set. So you have to apply, and there's a lottery. And if you get it, you're able to short-term rental your home.
So the 320 licenses that were up for grabs in Henderson, are those all gone?
It's not all gone, and here's why. Because every year you have to renew your license. So if I have a license in my home and I don't renew it, that space will become available.
Right.
And that's happened to me where I own a home in an area, and then the space opens, and then I could go apply for that license. So it's a great point, because a lot of people say, I'll never get a license. It's not true. So if you own the real estate already, you could always keep checking to see if the spot opens up.
Interesting.
Well, and it's like a monopoly piece, right? So if you have the
Great
license on your home or on a home that you own, tell us how you capitalize on that.
It's just like, I call it a gold mine, because these things really, they make a lot of money if done correctly. And so markets like Texas and California, Florida, the regulations aren't as strict. So there's so many more of them. So if you don't have a lot, you could charge more money. And as you both know that the hotel prices are skyrocketing. So people are like, I don't want to pay $600 a night when I could spend $300 a night for a whole house.
Yeah.
So people are taking that cheaper route.
And
I think a lot of, for depending on the type of travel, not everybody wants to stay in a hotel. They want the benefit of a kitchen,
Yep.
they don't want to deal with the traffic on the strip, or they might want to be in a home instead.
yeah.
I got into the business very like nonchalant because people were always asking me, do I have a place that can host?
Okay.
And so I did one, and I was like, let's see how this goes. And I coached the high school lacrosse team, and other coaches and other teams were always asking me, do you have a house by the field? I was like, I think I got something here in Henderson. Because it's like people want to be off the strip or they want to be like right on the strip.
Sure.
So I went the opposite direction. All mine are off strip.
Yeah.
And it just like picked up and people were calling me. I just started promoting it. And then I got into doing like, I got to build out the biggest, coolest ones. So we bought a house called St. Gabriel, and it's 9,000 square feet. And it's a monster.
Yeah.
And you could do parties there. You could do events. You could do whatever you want. But it's like a really cool family vacation spot.
Very cool.
Yeah, and all of the rooms are like curated with like the wallpaper is like showgirls or like the art in
we
it.
themed it after the Las Vegas Strip. So each room is like MGM Grand, Luxor.
Okay.
And so that house is like, I could do a whole reality show in that house. It took like a life of its own. So somebody saw it and they were like, we want to do a reality TV show in this home. So for the past 6 months, the UFC has filmed their Ultimate Fighter reality
That's so
TV show in
awesome.
there, which was really cool.
Oh, that's so fun.
Did you have help designing that home?
Yes, we have an amazing designer. Her name's Brittany, and she did it all on her own.
That's
I can't
awesome.
take any credit for that. I
Yeah.
just found the house.
Yeah, it looks great. Tell us how you get around HOAs in the short-term rental market.
So
You were reading my mind.
So it's funny. Everyone thinks that you can't have a license in an HOA area, but they're wrong. Because some HOAs allow it.
Okay.
My personal house that I live in is in an HOA, but it allows short-term rentals.
Okay.
So what I found, if the HOA payment is lower, under $50, read the CCNRs, and they might allow it.
Okay.
But a lot of the homes I do own in Henderson are in a non-HOA area.
So if it expressly says that you can't have a rental for shorter than a 12-month term, and there are already licensed homes in the same neighborhood, what does that mean?
So those were grandfathered in before they changed the CCNRs,
Right.
most of those. But you can get away with midterm rentals because technically you could sign a year lease and do shorter amount of time. People can come in and out.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the HOA. I'm not trying to like bark up the wrong HOA's tree,
Right.
but we have a huge shortage. We have a problem with
Yeah.
rentals. And so if all these HOAs shut down all the rentals, no one's going to move here. That boosts our economy.
Yeah, and I think in the things that I have researched about you and your program that I want you to talk about, what you teach people is getting to know your neighbors and getting them in on, you having this rental where people who are unfamiliar to them are going to be coming in and out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's the best analogy I could use is you're buying a hotel. So when you buy this house or hotel, you have to protect it. So I've had crazy stories with neighbors that don't like it. I've had neighbors that do like it. But if you have a party house, obviously the neighbors aren't going to like it. So it's just educating the neighbors, showing them, like, this is what I do. We have noise meters in the home. We have all these safety precautions. We have cameras making sure that, look, if it gets loud, we're going to shut it down immediately. But we run it the right way.
That's great.
Yeah. So what do you teach in your program? You actually sell a program that people can learn about how to run a short-term rental investment property.
So I'm sure you know this, but like this is like a hot topic here, especially in Vegas. So I was just getting so many texts and calls from agents. Hey, I got a client who wants to do this, and I had to like weed out the people who were serious versus who were just kind of like checking to maybe peek around the business. So I created a course of, if you want to do this the right way, these are the steps you have to do. And then I kind of expanded it into different markets. So it'll work of what you're looking for into literally any state in the country.
Where can people buy the course?
It's on winwithairbnb.com.
Cool. And how much is it?
It's $1,500.
Okay, cool.
But I'm going to plug a cool thing. I didn't launch it yet, but I'm going to do an Airbnb boot camp in November.
Okay.
And so I'm going to invite 15 people to come stay at the San Gabriel Mansion for a 3-day boot camp and just learn strictly about all these type of rentals, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, insurance rentals, arbitrage rentals, literally any rental that I do, I'm going to teach how you can make money investing in real estate.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's insurance. Like, so somebody's house has a fire or water damage. They have to move out and they have to find a place to live for a short period of time.
Which is the best investment right now.
Okay.
Because
There's no place for them. I have no people who've gone through that, and there's no place for them to go.
No, there's no place for them to go. And the best is these insurance companies will literally say, name your price.
Yeah.
They'll say how much money, and you could throw crazy numbers at them, $10,000 a month, and they'll pay it because these people are just unfortunate. The house burned down, it flooded, and they need to house, like by law, they have to put these people back in a similar living situation, and so they'll pay, which is great for the investor.
Yeah, I've had a couple of instances personally, and my dad was also moved out, and it was the same situation where my dad was in a 2,000 square foot home that he didn't have anyone else living with him. But imagine when you have kids, when you have dogs, and you need to be put up in the same type of place that's furnished. I think that place was like $4,000 a month.
No, you can make insane money. And there's people that strictly focus on this sector of rentals, just strictly midterm. They create relationships with these insurance companies, and they're like, bring me, I have 10 properties. I only want your insurance claims clients.
What about like executives and like traveling professionals, traveling nurses, that kind of thing?
I haven't really, I don't know why the traveling nurses thing
I hear
is
about
so
that a lot,
right?
right? I hear about it, but I'm like, do we know any?
Yeah, I think in some markets that's big. It's not big here.
Okay.
The insurance is way bigger
Mm-hmm.
than that. But John talks about this a lot where, there's just so many people moving here, and there's not enough housing. Especially now, we're getting into bigger people are moving here, wealthier people, and there's not enough luxury rentals right now.
No,
So if
I've
you have a
actually
luxury
heard that.
rental,
I had an agent who has a $25 million listing up in McDonald Highlands. She came and looked at my listing, and she's like, what we need is someone to buy some of the older homes and renovate them because there's no luxury rental
there's
inventory.
none. If you look over $10,000 a month, there's very rare, very few in Henderson.
Yeah.
And just think, there's going to be some rich people moving here, and there already are. And these are people that don't want to move here full time yet, or maybe just don't want to buy, or they're an athlete. They're all over the place. So having that, it's a good thing to have.
I think most real estate investors also don't go into a property looking for it to be turnkey. So I'm assuming that you have renovated quite a few properties.
Yes. And I hate construction. I'm scared of it to death. But what I've done, I partner with people who are really good at it. My talent is seeing it. I'll kind of hand it off, and then they'll give it back to me, and then I'm good at the management part of it.
I love that part of construction. Get me all up in it.
No, I'm not. I just don't trust people to do the work. That's the hardest part.
That's true. There's some foundation in that. I think.
Yeah.
Right. So but running the homes isn't that bad.
Right. How do you look at the cost analysis at the forefront of a property to consider it and whether it's viable?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's got a cash flow.
Yeah.
As a normal rental.
Right.
I've tried some trickier homes where I'm like, I don't know, but I always say that if you could double your mortgage, if your mortgage is $4,000 a month and that property can net you around $8,000, that's an amazing, amazing property. Now with interest rates, it's going to be super hard to do that.
Right.
But I have some that triple and quadruple the mortgage. So it's a really strong investment.
Yeah.
Do you do a pro forma or a financial analysis of every property that you buy?
I do. You have to try. It's a little bit harder with putting it on a website like Airbnb because sometimes it's like this. But Henderson's a little bit easier because your market. You'll know your 5 surrounding homes that you're competing against. So if you have the nicest one out of that area, remember, no one else can come in and boot you out or outperform you. So what we've tried to do is just make the nicest home, holy crap, that home is sick. Then we'll do really well, and we've had success with it.
Does Airbnb give you vacancy information or occupancy rates? on an area, or can you get that from them? Or?
So what I do is step one, I'll go on Airbnb and I'll just mess around with the months. I'll say, all right, what's it looking like July?
What's average
per
rent
night?
looking like? Yep.
And then it gets into serious detail of occupancy, the weather, the time of the flights coming in, like all these types of crazy stuff. I think that's maybe a little overboard, but that's step one. And then I'll go on websites like AirDNA and Price Labs, and they'll literally, it's so automated now where if you buy a house, you take pictures, there's 3 websites you need to put it on, and it's done. And you can just operate it with your cleaner. All the pricing is done. The messaging is automated. So these are just things that we teach the students how to set up their rental business.
Yeah. But on the licensure side, going into it, you never really know whether you're going to get the license until you buy the property, right?
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Not yet, but I've been trying to get into the market for the past couple of years.
Okay. So great point. It's a gamble.
Yeah.
We live in Las Vegas, so it's a gamble. So you have to buy the home. You're not guaranteed the license. So you have to put your name into the portal, and your home has to pass an inspection. If it doesn't pass, you don't get the license. Well, on one home I bought, and the neighbor a few homes down applied before I did. So we didn't get it. We didn't get the license. I had to sell the home.
Yeah.
So
And
that sucked.
it's also 1,000, you have to be 1,000 square feet
Yeah.
from any other home that is licensed.
Square feet or linear feet?
Square feet.
So it's a big round diameter
Okay.
circle.
Yeah.
And and you don't think 1,000 square feet is a lot, but it's hundreds of homes.
It's a lot of homes.
It's like over 100 probably in that circle. So I've missed out on a home being 2 feet away.
Yeah.
998 feet, and you can measure on the map, and there's an interactive map. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But I've missed out on a home, the one I had to sell, over 2 feet.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I showed Megan a property a couple of weeks ago that was about 46 feet. So.
That's good.
We're like, are we gonna get the tape measure?
Yeah, no, we were literally
I've
It was
tried.
questionable.
I was like, come on, 2
Well, and it's
feet,
like-
and they
and
just didn't budge.
And it's like,
Yeah.
is the dot in the middle of the lot? Is it at the perimeter of
farthest
the
Yeah,
lot?
it's
Is
just the perimeter of the lot. And I tried. I showed the guy. I'm like, look, I
Yeah.
moved it just a little over, and he was like, nope, it's no good. They're really strict about it, and
Yeah.
it's a good thing though. They do a good job at the City of Henderson.
Yeah, but the devil's in the details. When it comes to investing, this is a high stakes game where you're buying, a very expensive home. However you're financing it, you've got a mortgage on it. You need to,
gotta
double
perform
or
on it,
triple
right?
it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, what are the other things that people need to look out for between the square footage between homes? What's the license rate? Talk about some of the other license.
Yeah, so you apply for the
issues.
license once a year. It's $820, and you have to maintain a good rapport with the city. So if you're getting phone calls and reports that you're not behaving, you could get like an F on your report card. They won't renew your license.
Right.
But more importantly, you have to maintain your hotel.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting bad reviews and people aren't enjoying, the house doesn't function well, then your business is going to fail.
Yeah. And then some of the other details, like as far as occupancy, I think there are limits to, like, you can't just put 18 beds in a living room and say, we can take 32
Yeah.
people.
She knows. You know your stuff. Great point. So if you have a 3-bedroom home, the max occupancy is 6 people.
Okay.
So per bedrooms, legal bedrooms, that's the amount of people that you could have.
Okay.
And the most you could have right now, they lowered it to 14.
Oh, they did.
So you could have
Okay.
a 25,000 square foot house, but the most they could do is 14.
Right. So how do you get around that when you have a big group coming in?
People are always going to test the system.
Yeah.
So we've had some situations where more than 14 people came. We don't want to be like the Debbie Downers,
Sure.
like
But it's your
bad
property
cop.
too.
That's your bad cop.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of like go at them and say, look, you lied. What do you want to do about this? And it usually ends up in a negotiation where we'll ask them for more money.
Yeah.
But I'm not the type of person that's going to go shut it down over 2 people, but you're only supposed to have a certain amount of people in the home.
Yeah. Well, and I think like we've seen this on social media where people bring dogs or like, bring a party and they expect it to just be cool, but there are cameras and that's another part of the requirement.
So I'll tell you a funny story. The agent in here, good friend of mine, and he's like, Jay, got this professional athlete, wants to rent your big mansion.
Yeah.
No problem. Didn't even sign a lease because I trusted him. Okay. And I got a phone call and pictures from my cleaner. They had a little party. Got a little out of control.
Yeah.
And there was some gross stuff at this party. And they destroyed my house.
Oh, my gosh.
So I was in a situation where I called my friend, like, your professional athlete client wrecked my house. And he was embarrassed about it. And he took care of it. But that's just the nature of the game. With hotels deal with this too all the time.
Yeah. Well, going back to having the license and that being monopoly piece, where do you see this going in the future with, you know, people holding that space? Because technically, once you take that license, anyone within 1,000 square feet who wants to rent their home has to come to you and say, hey, would you like to sell out? And that $820 license now becomes what? Have you had that experience
Yeah,
yet?
I've valued it at over $100,000. So if you own a $500,000 house and you have that license, I would evaluate it with an extra $100,000 because just of the power it has that you can rent that thing for so much more money than a normal home. So I have it on my house, and it's funny. Next week I was gonna test it. I think my house is worth about $700. I was gonna throw it on for around $900 just to see if there's really somebody. Because there's some Chinese investors that own a lot of these things with big money. Yeah. And they will throw crazy offers at you for it.
Yeah. And I mean, as an agent, you can walk them through. That's a part of how you leverage a listing, right?
Yes.
Is you can walk them through how to apply for it because it doesn't turn over to them.
Nope. I think you should teach the course. You know more than me.
Well, I mean, like I've studied this for a long time, and I think I, got into it too late and didn't have the properties already, going into the legislation of it all. So now it's trying to catch up with the legislation and trying to get ahead of it. So it's like, how do you do that?
Right. So I'll give you a little quick segment tip of what I think the better way to invest is right now if you don't have a license. I think if you buy a really nice home with a pool in a really good area and you furnish it really nicely, it could outperform a normal short-term rental.
Really?
Yeah, as renting it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because here's why. The turnover, when you have a lot of turnover, that's when the costs come in. So you're juicing up the AC for 12 people instead of maybe just renting it for 3 people. You're not constantly sending the cleaners in there. Things aren't breaking as much. So I've done the study of having both, and it kind of evens out. If you have a really good midterm rental, it could make just as much profit.
Yeah. And I think there's probably opportunity there to, offer it as like to do like a sublease, to lease it to one, person or family. We've seen this in multiple family or multiple person investments where we went to St. George for the Parade of Homes, and it's a $5.5 million property where they're like, well, if you get in on it with 11 different people, then you can have a share of it for a couple weeks a year.
Right.
But I think that that's also somewhere to be creative. You're still looking within the bounds of what the rules are. And, you're not crossing any lines.
It's a great point. Have you heard of Picasso, the company? So that's what they do.
Yeah.
They're selling eighths of shares of $20 million homes.
Right.
And each person gets 44 nights a year. And you don't have the maintenance of the whole mother load of this big house. And so I wanted to jump in on a Picasso. I think John has one. But I haven't done it yet. But I think that's, talking about going into the future of real estate investing, I think that's a big... Because you could sell part of your house if you like it, but you don't want all of it.
Right.
You could say, look, I'll sell you a fourth of my home.
Well, I'm not even talking about selling it. I'm talking about keeping it as your own property, but then setting that up on a lease where it's like you're in a network of other people.
That's a good idea.
If you and I, have our properties together and then maybe we have properties in other states, that's a way to timeshare.
Yeah, that's a good, like I just did one in Arizona. I did a luxury one in Arizona, and it's such a harder market.
Yeah.
It's saturated. There's no rules. And I was like, this is going to be so easy. But I realized, I'm like, it's not. We're doing it remotely. We're not there. So we have to send people there instead of going there ourselves. But, yeah, the reason why we bought it was to use it as a vacation home.
Yeah. So maybe there's something there where it's like, not a huge upfront cost to enter and be able to have a couple weeks a year at a place without any kind of obligation or, contract or agreement to make it 10 years or more.
Yeah. My aunt and uncle bought a fractional, a long time ago in Big Bear, and they were one of 8 people that owned it, and they split up the weeks. They had a calendar. I know people have done this, and then over the years, they bought everybody out eventually and owned the property themselves.
Sure.
Big Bear is actually one of the more declining markets now. That
Really?
like they just overruled that city now.
Yeah.
So it's like people crushing Big Bear for so long, and then I don't know, they just didn't want what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like now these mega markets are getting clipped, like Dallas and Joshua Tree and Big Bear. So you know all these people, they have millions of dollars invested in it, and now it's like scary for them because now their whole machine is ruined.
Sure. Did you come straight from New York to Las Vegas?
I did.
When did you get here?
2011,
Okay.
2011 or 12, yeah.
How did you end up in Vegas?
I came here on vacation to visit my buddy, and I never left.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you been?
Sorry, whereabouts in New York?
Long Island.
Okay.
Yep.
How? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What kept you here?
So I moved here to be a teacher. I was a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
That was my first job here. And then I started coaching lacrosse in Henderson
Okay.
at Coronado High School. Networked with a lot of the parents, and they saw a 22-year-old kid who had no clue what he was doing in the city, but I was good at coaching lacrosse. And as time went on, these parents gave me a lot of opportunities. They got me jobs in the hotel, and then it led into real estate, and that's how I met John.
Nice.
And John
Cool.
recruited me to come over, which is super cool.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, everything came from the lacrosse team.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Lacrosse isn't that big here, is it?
No, it's not.
My nephew and my niece both play up in British Columbia.
Oh, it's
And my
huge in
brother
Canada.
and his wife are really involved in the team and all of that stuff, and they're obsessed with it. They
Yeah,
love it.
we just have a small sports market. It's our town really. It's big, but it's really not that big.
Yeah.
It's true.
No, we say this all the time. I'm like, there are 3 degrees of separation. Megan says,
Yes, it's true.
there's 1.
I think there's one.
Yeah.
You're right. There is. It's not. It's a big little town.
Yeah. So what are your favorite spots in Vegas?
I'll tell you what. Just do anything.
Yeah.
The most fun thing that I do is I love going to sports events.
Okay.
I'm a huge jock sports guy. I think going to the football games, hockey games. I go to every UFC fight, boxing fight. That is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I do not miss any the sports events.
Are you a season ticket holder to any of them?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
What side are you on at the Raiders game? Because I know that this has been contentious among others and John and.
Okay. I have 4th row end zone.
Okay. On our side or on visitors?
The visitors. So
Okay.
it's they're kicking. Yeah, the visitors are warming up in front of me.
Okay. Do we like this crowd? Do we like the environment? I have yet to get into it. I'm
Why?
being public right now. I don't know. I'm a little partial. I don't know.
Are you from Vegas?
Yeah.
So you don't like it?
I mean, it's not that I don't like it. I just haven't gone to the Raiders side. I'm not like, yes, go Raiders. I'm like Golden Knights.
Okay.
I'll be there.
All right, I understand that.
You
Because the Raiders aren't like the Vegas home team.
Right.
But the Golden Knights are.
Right.
And that was really cool what just happened. Like I went to
Yes.
every Stanley Cup game. I was into it. Like I was going like that was so cool. Coming from New York, like the sports, it's just different. Like I feel like the city here really loves the teams. The team.
Yeah.
In New York, it's like it's not like that. It's like the media is like harsh on the players
Yeah.
and they're mean and it's like always negative. But like here, it's not like that. It's like more of a positive.
Yeah.
Like they really bring the town in. You could go eat. You could bring your kids to the games.
Yeah.
So I love that about Vegas. It's like really turning into a sports town, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
I want to get into it because I grew up in LA or outside of LA, and the Raiders were there when I was growing up. So like I'm like, but football, I'm just like, I don't know if I just can't wrap my brain around it if it's too slow.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've heard a mixed bag of things. That's why I ask those
Yeah.
questions, you know?
So I've gone to the hockey games and like I haven't even watched the game. Like
Yeah.
I'll go to the High
So
Lounge and
funny.
just network and just hang out with
Sure.
friends and have some drinks. And I think that's even awesome.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to watch the game. You
Yeah.
could just go. It's like every game. There's 42 of those games. It's like a whole event. So I like to go out and kind of like mingle around. Yeah.
It's such a fun
awesome.
environment. We did a couple hockey games during the playoffs, and I was like,
Yeah.
totally drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But you know what's also cool? Like the players love this town.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're like this town is fun. They really embrace the fans, and I think that's awesome.
I think it's good for our town.
Of course.
100%. And
Yeah.
it's gonna get better.
Yep. So buddies coming in from New York, where are you telling them to go eat and stop by and see while they're here?
I'm a big Barry's guy.
Okay.
Huge Barry's guy. I just think they run their show the right way. They're just like very family oriented. You walk in, you know, they're giving you a hug, like here's your seat. You know, it's like it's like a whole vibe. Love that. The pool parties are really popular for New Yorkers that come to visit. Like that's like a big thing. And there's just so many. Like I feel like I'm not a foodie, but I feel like Vegas has turned into like a foodie spot.
Yeah. That's why we're here.
Right? Yeah. So are you guys big foodies?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite restaurant?
You know, I don't think I have a favorite restaurant, but I think this is one of our main questions is, you know, where are people loving to eat? And I think we've gotten so many different answers. Barry's has certainly come up.
Because and I'll be honest, I'll probably get crapped on a little bit, but I don't think the Vegas food is good.
Okay.
I don't think it's great. I think it's okay, but like we don't have good pizza here.
Well,
Oh, no.
You know,
That's New York.
Coming from New York,
right,
it's
it's-
like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
It's slower here. It's like kind of just like at a snail's pace. Like it's in New York, it's just like you gotta go. Like let's eat, get out of here. So it's different. But I do feel like all these. Like I went to Toca Madeira a few times, and I feel like that vibe of like the trancy lounge while you're eating a steak is like getting popular. I think that's cool.
Okay, cool.
STK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Sunday. The weather's perfect. What are you doing? I think you're married, right?
I'm
Do you
married.
have
Yep.
kids?
I got one little guy.
Aw.
Yep.
What are you guys doing on a Sunday when the weather's perfect?
So I'm coaching a game, watching some football, and calling it a day. That's what I would do on a Sunday.
I love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Simple life.
Simple. Yeah. I'm not. My past life, I was going out a little bit more, but now things have changed.
Yeah.
Maybe doing a little real estate too.
How old is he?
He is going to be 2.
Oh my gosh.
He's a little guy.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a fun age.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
on the
thank you for coming
podcast.
Thank you for
on.
having me. This
Yes.
is awesome.
This
How's-
is such good information for people because for me, like I've used a lot of short-term rentals, but there's still so much that I don't know.
I'll tell you what. Like, why don't you two go to my big house and do
Okay.
a podcast there?
Okay.
We would
You
love
tour
that.
it. I'll give you the dates it's open. Go tour it and check it out. You could do like a little walking. A lot of
Yeah.
people use it for content. So
Okay. Yeah, that'd
wide
be
open
great.
for you guys.
Yeah, that would be great. We would love to do that, and maybe we can get in there before so we can show some of our viewers
Yeah.
on this podcast episode what that
Yes,
house looks
that'd be
like because
cool.
it is really beautiful and amazing.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.